Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Creative Entrepreneur interview series. I'm your co-host, Beth Barani. Alongside me is Gala Russ, also co-hosting, and I'll introduce our guest in a moment. A little bit about me. I am an award-winning science fiction and fantasy author, passionate about helping science fiction and fantasy authors go from idea to publication in a way that works delightfully for them so they can reach their readers who are eagerly waiting for their books. And now I'm also helping other creative writers who want to build a profitable and sustainable business to serve other creatives so they can share their expertise with confidence, all the while making a living doing what they love. Off to you, Gala.
Hi, I'm Gala Russ, and I am a co-host today, and I'm also co-creating this wonderful entrepreneurial apprenticeship. Somehow that sounds like a mouthful right there. I started in the world of writing as a romance author. I still am a romance author. I write with a co-author under a pen name, Willett Drew. I've published almost 10 books, I think, right now. And then I became a book coach and a publishing strategist, I call it, helping people figure out how to publish their books. And if you're going with indie publishing, how to do that with the less hassle and not as much stress and in the way that works for you, because we're all different. I want to make sure you're doing it the way that you like doing things. And today we have a guest, Miranda Darrow, and we're going to let Miranda introduce herself. Go for it.
Hi, thank you. Yes, I'm Miranda Darrow. I'm a freelance fiction editor. I am one of the RevPit online writing community volunteer editors. And in my day job, I'm an in-house corporate attorney. And so I do bring on that experience with my editing and book coaching business too.
So interesting. I love that really interesting mashup. I think you're the first lawyer that we have spoken to today. So curious about that. So yeah, that actually segues me right into our first question, which is what past experiences or skills have shaped how you show up in your business helping writers today?
Absolutely. Yes. In my day job that I'm still working, I'm an in-house corporate attorney. I spent about 14 years in the private practice of law and law firms, and that has a pretty intense lifestyle. It didn't really lead to a whole lot of writing or editing. And then about 17 years ago, I joined a nonprofit as an in-house attorney where I still work. But at my old law firm, we were trained very heavily in customer service and managing expectations. And so we had to be very clear about what we were delivering, when they could expect to hear from us, how they should get a hold of us. And so I've carried that over into my editing business and in my day job too, in-house. The internal clients were just like, oh, wow, we always know what your turnaround time is going to be and what's the best way to reach you. And we actually had a training with some of our clients about what actually is urgent. And don't send me something as urgent and then you're gone for a week. So it's a lot about it's professional communications that a lot of creatives didn't have the formal training in it that I did as an associate as a law firm, at a large law firm. So I always send confirmation emails with all the important dates, what documents need to be sent where, how I accept payment. All of that is really clear up front so that people know what they're going to expect. And then I always try to underpromise and overdeliver.
I love that. I love that. I know that I tend to be I started in customer service too in a library, and it was so easy for me. So yeah, being able to tell people deadlines and appointment times. And I actually ask my clients when they send me their documents sometime, what do you want me to look at this time? I'm not going to assume it's the same as last time. Plus I can't remember because I have 5 manuscripts I'm editing right now. So I love that you are so customer service focused. And just a sidebar question, are you also writing creatively?
I am, but not as much as I used to. And so the only things that I have published is a nonfiction book on revising your manuscript, but I also have a small romance novella out there too. But
that's wonderful. So great. Gala, you have a question?
I really love how we creative people are like, I have 2 books published on top of my big corporate job, and we're running my own business. You have 2.
I've got some novels that are sitting in a box that someday I just might let them free.
We talked to some people about the balance between the creative writing and the work But what I wanted to piggyback on, so I used to be in the corporate world and I was a project manager and a product manager. And I think that I can relate to you bringing that whole mentality of, okay, here's what we're going to do. Here's as this is progressing. Here is the complete project. I still carry that over and think that clients tend to find that useful, having somebody provide the extra structure for them, especially for creative people. That's not always the thing. And I wonder how that translates into the actual editing for you. Two of my very good friends who are lawyers always tell me that I think I could be an editor. I wonder if that's like there's a correlation between a
I
lawyer,
don't think there is, but it's a very different style of writing than what lawyers.
but finding things.
But just like the communication and the managing expectations and stuff. So I do book coaching, and with my coaching clients, I'll either meet with them once a month or twice a month. But if it's twice a month, I like to send them off with assignments. And if I haven't seen their assignment back, at least like a week before our next session, I'm like, we should push it out because I want you to be prepared and I want me to be prepared. And I want this to be a good use of our time because I don't want to have a session where they're paying me to help them with their manuscript, but we weren't really prepared. And so we're just talking around it rather than really being productive and driving to results.
Yeah. There was one more thing that Beth just sent me. Was it yesterday or the day before? It was super recently. She sent me a quiz. I love quizzes. So I was like, oh, a quiz about finding out something about myself lets me do it right away. And one of the things that I ended up getting as a quiz, I think it was, I don't remember what it was, but it was like, what is your bottleneck or where do you need to develop more? And for me, it was the opposite of what you said, because I tend to still underprice and over deliver. So this is still a skill that I'm working on. I'm looking to be pricing appropriately and delivering appropriately. And I feel like we always keep learning things. There's no perfect state. No matter what you do, you're always learning some other skills. You can be great at this thing and great at that thing. So I don't know. Did you develop that not over delivering and pricing right?
Hard lessons, spending way too much time for some projects because my editing, I price by the word. And if I've got different levels of edits. And so I could do a manuscript evaluation, and that's the lowest cost, or I could do a developmental edit letter, which really goes through and describes a whole plan for how to revise. And then there's a full manuscript package that includes the letter, plus notes in the manuscript, plus a Zoom chat. And rather than trying to give everything to everyone, even if they can't afford that, it's just, no, let's find something that's priced for you and your budget. And then I had to fight the temptation of every time somebody would hire me for a manuscript evaluation, giving them a full developmental edit letter instead. And I'm like, no, they didn't pay for that. We need to do the high level SWOT analysis that comes with the manuscript evaluation and not because it's not fair to my clients who are paying for the other package too. So sometimes you just have to say, all right, I did that one, but I'm not doing that again.
I just made that mistake with my last client because it was her very first book. It might be her very last. I think it's not a person who at least she doesn't think she's going to be like a continuously a writer all the time. And she didn't really know what the differences are. And I did not do a very good job explaining the two different types of developmental edits. And I think she expected more. And at that point, I'm like, the mistake was on me. I did not explain it well. So the next time I had to write out and explain better and educate the client, especially when the client is new to the editing world, on what are the different levels of editing so that I don't end up doing more work for less money. But it was an interesting lesson.
Absolutely. And so on my website, under my editing services, I have a pretty in-depth description. But then with my email, when I'm booking them, this is what's included and this is not included. And especially if I'm booking line edits or copy edits or something, then I say, this does not include developmental big picture structure changes and stuff. So if you want that, that's a different service and we should do that first. And yeah, I think, just being clear and professional and then holding myself to those timeframes. I think it's been a strength area for me that my clients really appreciate.
Yeah, I like the what's not included part.
Yes.
When you're creating the packages, this is what's included, this is what's not included. It's a good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So Gala, I think you're asking the next question.
I am. So the next question is, how do you balance serving a niche versus staying open to a variety of opportunities? You're an editor, but how do you balance those two things?
Since I started my freelance editing business, I've expanded in two ways. I started pretty niche. I was doing developmental edits and copy edits for romance because that's what I was writing. I was in a bunch of writing groups. Those were the authors I knew. They were my first clients. But then pretty quickly, I expanded to women's fiction, contemporary fiction, because there's quite a bit of crossover. We know lots of authors who appeal to both audiences. So I joined the Women's Fiction Writers Association and was volunteering at some of their events and got to learn more about the specific genre expectations and tropes and themes. And then I also expanded it to speculative fiction, sci-fi, fantasy, which I'd always liked. I wasn't writing it until I wrote a time travel romance. But then I was leading a speculative fiction writers group in St. Paul back when I lived in the Twin Cities. And so I had a lot of critique partners from that group. And I'm just like, oh, I should add this to my editing business too. And I took some classes in world building and genre expectations. And then more recently, I think 5 years ago, I added mysteries, suspense, and thrillers. And I'd never written any except for flash fiction for those, but I'd read a ton of them. And so I took a class in editing mysteries through Club Ed. I really like Jen Lawler's classes. And then I also read the Writing and Selling Your Mystery Novel by Hallie Efron, which is, it's a great craft book for people writing mystery. It has so many helpful worksheets, and I've used it with clients. Then my first mystery that I edited was my 2021 Rev Pit winner, the contest that we have where people can win a full manuscript developmental edit. And it was Nishida Parekh's The Night of the Storm, which ended up getting a big pub deal at Dutton. And it's a super fun domestic suspense about an extended Indian American family holed up in a cookie cutter suburb neighborhood in Houston during Hurricane Harvey. And then the murders start. So that was super fun. So it was just like, yep. And so since then, I've worked on a ton of mysteries and domestic suspense and thrillers. And I'm actually this week preparing to go down to Killer Nashville. They asked me to come down and talk and give critiques. So that was cool. So I expanded it slowly while making sure that I knew what I was doing because I never wanted to not have the experience that I needed. I got the education. And as a reader, I've always read widely. I'm a super reader. I read like an average of at least 150 books a year. So I know what's current in all these genres because who needs sleep when, there's books. So I do know editors who work only with romance or only work YA fantasy. I've got a good friend on the Rev Pit group who only does YA fantasy. And if that's what they like and that's what they're interested in, they're really immersed, then that works for them. But personally, I like working with different genres. It's just like I'm working on one right now that's women's fiction. I just finished up one that was a legal thriller. And it's just, ooh, what are we going to do now? And I feel like working with different genres has helped me to be able to work on subplots for people's genres. So when I was working on the legal thriller, there was a romantic subplot that was falling a little flat, but because I have experience writing and editing romance, I'm able to help. Let's establish a basis. Let's not have this insta-love. Let's get the push and pull and all these things. And so that really helped. And then all these women's fiction that had these 2 timelines, and it's not really a mystery, but there's definitely a secret. And having edited a bunch of mysteries, it's really helpful for what's the pacing for that and how do we reveal this and how do we really pull people in. So I feel like that's been a really strength area for me. And then the other way, besides expanding and adding other genres, is I've expanded services. So I added book coaching and I added book mapping, where you just really graph out what's going on, especially with there's lots of subplots and stuff. I broadened up my business, but I still don't do everything. So
I'm sorry, Beth. I have so many questions. Because I feel like I'm going to have to maybe invite you over to one of my IG lives. I run a Writing Conversations Instagram lives where it's an hour-long conversation where we can like super dig deep.
yes, invite me.
You mentioned so many trigger words for me that are like top of my mind, things that I'm working through right now. One was the mystery. I was asking Beth and another guest earlier because I just challenged myself to write a fantasy. It's probably like a paranormal romantasy, but with a mystery in it. And I've never written mysteries, and I love mysteries. And I was just asking Beth, what are book recommendations? Because I feel like I'm underprepared to plot the mystery part, and I'm a big learner. So
Yeah.
I'm going to afterwards reach out.
Hallie Efron's writing and selling your mystery novel. Yes.
Yeah.
I like that book,
Okay.
but also pick my brain because I read a mystery very recently. It was called Can You Solve This Murder? And it was like choose your own adventure. And then you were jumping around but there was like a right answer and some wrong answers and stuff. So that was
Figure
super
it
fun
out.
too.
Yeah, and I can totally relate to you, like having multiple genres. And one of the things that I do as a workshop, like one of the like my most popular workshops, is how to. It's called romancing the subplot, but it's basically
Yes.
for a genre fiction writers about how to write a romantic subplot that does not have all of those flat character arcs or insta love.
Yes.
When you mentioned it, I was like, I know exactly.
Yes. That's a topic that I presented on too, is romantic subplots for novels of any genre. And so that's a favorite of mine too. It's just,
Such a fun thing.
yeah.
When you know the romance and then you're like, I assume that everybody knows, and then you go
No.
and you
Then you read some and you're like, oh man. Even in some published works, we're like,
yeah, I was like, I can help you. I can help you
Yes.
with this. And yeah, anyway, thank you. Because for me, I feel like very personal. I'm definitely going to reach out and talk to you about that. But I also really appreciate how you showed how it is not, I have to do everything all at once.
no, add
Quickly,
them
and
over
then-
time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like strategically, does this fit with my business? Yeah.
Yeah. Beth, over to you. Sorry. I was very excited. I was very excited.
I think it's so wonderful, and to show the evolution that where you end up isn't necessarily where you start. And I started out wanting to be a romance author, but my first novel was a young adult adventure fantasy. And then I published that trilogy. And then I went to sweet paranormal romance because everything's got to have fantastic elements. And then I jumped over to sci-fi mystery, and I had to kind of beef up in the sci-fi, but also in the mystery because I am writing police procedurals. And so I feel like I've got all of the genres except for horror, but I co-teach with my husband in our online programs, and he loves horror. So we have that. And actually, sci-fi and fantasy have a lot of horror elements I'm coming to
Do. Yeah.
which is so fascinating. I love how you're sharing how there's an evolution. And so how did you, like, what communities, networks, or partnerships have been the most helpful for you in building up your client base? You mentioned some of the writing associations, but yeah, tell us more about that.
So my number one resource has been joining the RevPit group of developmental editors. And so they sponsor an annual contest, and we've hopped around. It used to be on Twitter, and then it was on Reddit for a while, and now we're on Blue Sky. So that's been harder to find our audience stuff. But we have an annual contest where writers submit their manuscripts, and each of the editors who's participating picks one winner to give a full developmental edit for the manuscript. And then we also sponsor other writing events during the year, including a fall into fiction event and 10 queries sometimes throughout the year. And this is an amazing group of editors that we have a Slack channel that we talk to each other all year long. It's not just around the annual contest. And we ask each other questions about editing and running a freelance business. And is this a trend, or is this, we find authors, if they aren't a good fit for us, then
Whoops, you just got muted, Miranda. I think on your side, that's very bizarre.
you hear me now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So start again with that sentence. And also, can you answer, is RevPit, it's hashtag RevPit.
REVPIT.
Yeah. And is
The
it
website is reviseresub.com. Why are they different? RevPit was taken. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. And it's a free thing. Like, you volunteer
free.
your time, and people join into the competition for free as well. It sounds like
Correct. It's all free. Yeah.
that's incredible. And so all of you are volunteering your time, and then you're using that as a way to find clients. Sounds
Right. Yeah. It's not an organization at all. It's just a group of volunteers. And so because we do see it as like joint marketing but also giving back to the writing community, because a lot of our authors who were our winning manuscripts have gone on to have some great success and some great books, and then they like to hang around with our community and volunteer as first readers for part of the contest. And then we do like a Camp Rev Pit where authors who didn't win get to participate in a month-long writing event while we're working with our winners and stuff. So it's a great community, and it's great for writers, but it's also really great to be one of the editors, because then you have just such a close group of people who know what it's like to have a freelance editing business. And, should I take this job when, there are these red flags? And I'm like, are they red or are they pink? And, while also trying to keep the lights.
I was also
So
wondering if you've explored Substack, because there's so many writers on Substack, and I do not know if something like that would also work there.
our email, so our blog post does go out in Substack. I'm not our social media. I'm the
Yeah.
editor recruiter.
Cool. Yeah, I was trying, my brain always comes up with new business ideas. It's like, oh, should there be like a book coaching pit? Because that's also another cool thing that
That would
authors
be a
need.
cool thing.
Before you get to the editing part, you need to actually finish your manuscript first. And that would also be very cool, helpful thing.
And so we do this last year, we started sprints. I'm like, what's the sprints and writing inspiration? And we're doing, but yeah, I think there's always room for more. There's we've seen a bunch of online writing events kind of show up and disappear, but RevPit will, next year will be its 10th year. So.
Oh, that's so wonderful. Congratulations.
Wow. I've also had success, but you're not going to get rich volunteering, talking at conferences, but you can find some clients that way. And so I'm always careful to make value and showing myself as a subject matter expert without being too salesy. And if they like you and they know you and they remember you, then when they're ready, then they can find you. So, because I do hate the hard sell when I sit through a long presentation and it's just like, oh, now all of a sudden I'm at I'm getting a timeshare and I don't, and then joining the Writers Helping Writers group has helped me cross market with opportunities like this and getting to meet other folks who are online and sponsoring events and opportunities. So that was great too. I've done some social media of my own, but I'm not very good at it. But I have a YouTube channel where every week I put up a video talking about writing, and I talk about like a different genre each month. And I have found when we talk about niches that the more niche the video, the more viewers. You're like, what? That sounds weird. But my most popular video, at least for a long time, was a book recommendation list for alt history titles. Who knew? All these alt history folks. It's just like,
yeah. Because it's harder to find. It's the same thing with mystery, because I haven't been in the mystery. I'm like, I don't know where, like, I've started looking at the YouTube channels. I'm like, I need that. Is there something that will tell me how to plot a mystery within a paranormal romantasy? That's ideally the video I want to find. And maybe that was specific, and I don't.
You have a video about romantic subplots, so I'd be happy to hook you up with that.
Yeah, I'm like, the romantic subplots is the part that I'm good with. It's like the fantasy world building plus the mystery world building in it. That's
we got lots of things going on. So
what is your YouTube channel? Because I feel like I'm using this interview as for personal gain.
Like 3994, and I don't think I picked those random numbers or whatever. But if you search for me,
okay.
So I've got like
a new subscriber.
Yay. Because I don't have a ton, but I have had my first client found me through, and I'm just like, finally, it's working. Because I always ask clients, because I don't really advertise, like paid advertising. And so it's like word of mouth, or it's social media, or frequently I saw you speak at a conference or an online summit or event. And I'm like, okay, yep. And so that I feel like that's how I've built my business, is just talking to people about writing and showing your enthusiasm for their work and digging in. I give away a lot of free critiques, because as part of the RevPit annual contest, we do these 10 query sessions where multiple ones. And so we're giving, not a ton of feedback. It's usually first 5 pages in the query letter, but we'll post ones so that people can see kind of generic. And then I'll send them a letter that's get with more in depth, and they'll be like, "Oh, you really did read that," and that's not just some generic canned response. I think. Go ahead.
I was just saying that's so wonderful that you offer that.
No, that's part of the requirement is we have to have at least each editor. So even though you pick one feedback, and I usually try and do that if I found one, the best way to find a warm audience are that know.
Yeah. And you've given them a direct experience with you. Like I've discovered the best way to market is to teach, is to get in front of a group, either online or in person. And even like this YouTube channel is an opportunity for people to get to know Gala and I, because we're sharing our interests and we're teaching a tiny bit. And really, it's like a demo, or it's like you go into the grocery store and you try that new thing that they're giving away for free to have a little taste, and you decide, oh, I like that or I don't. And it's so smart to do to do short support like that through RevPit. RevPit sounds amazing. Miranda, I think we could keep going, and Gala's going to keep picking your brain.
Sorry, I'm reaching out because, oh my God, this is
You the information. Everybody can find me at mirandadarrow.com, and I've got my email address. Let's absolutely reach out. Let's
Absolutely. And also your information, your bio, all your links will be in the show notes that go with this episode. And so, Miranda, thank you so much for coming today and being a part of our Creative Entrepreneurship series. And I just really appreciate that you took the time today.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.